How do you get into the golf travel business? That sounds like something someone would make up just to tell their wife they want to go play more golf. So, how did that get started with you?
You, well, it's funny because there was a golf writer, an American fellow I met years ago, and I can't remember his name now. He's an older gentleman. Hopefully, he's still with us, but I'm not sure. And he said, "Don't tell." We were on a bus going somewhere in upstate New York, and he said, "Don't ever tell anybody about this gig. It's too good to share."
Welcome to the Whole Story Podcast. We're excited you guys are joining us. We've got a great guest today. Quickly recap the weekend. Guys, we're playing the Scottish Open. It was quite the finish. Hopefully y'all watched it. Rory McIlroy won. He went birdie, Jonathan. I know you've been traveling. Maybe you didn't see it, but birdie the last two holes on Sunday to come back and beat Bob McIntyre by one shot. And they're playing in Scotland, right? The Scottish Open. Bob McIntyre, Scottish. He would have loved to obviously win at his home country. But it was I was curious or interesting to find out that was Rory's first win in Scotland. But anyway, it was a great tournament leading into the Open this week. But that's not what we're here to talk about. But
no, not a bad warm up, I guess you could say, to just go down a little south and maybe have a chance to win. They go back to back on something like that.
Yeah,
that wouldn't be a bad way to sort of pep up his career at this point in his life, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, well, as you can tell, Robby's still fully lidded. His beautiful face is fine if you're a YouTube listener here. I am in the dark because it is actually 2 a.m. I am, if you've been following, I've been traveling across the world. Just got done with India a couple days ago. Had a little bit of issues with European airport strikes, so we've had unexpected day in Zurich. But we are at Nice, and today, I plan on, after I go back to sleep because it's 2 a.m., planning on a day at the beach. So no golf yet, but we've been talking about maybe if I can find a hole or two, maybe up in the mountains somewhere. So anyway, if you want to follow along, we've got some updates and posts like that on our page too. But today we are actually going north of the border. We're going more international. I can't believe how many people we're getting from all across the world. We're going more international. Brian Kendall, he is the Canadian golf traveler, a golf journalist. If you're in this world, you've probably read or seen some of his stuff. Specializes in golf travel, which honestly is the envy of Robby and I, because who wouldn't love just to go and write and see in all the cool places. He's written for the Globe, the Mail, and he's the author of 6 books, including Northern Links, Canada from T to T. So as we continue to add to our list of places we want to play, I'm guessing we're going to be adding some more as well. So Brian, thanks for coming. We appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy summer schedule to get on our podcast. How's it going, man?
It's great. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you guys.
Yeah, Brian was telling us that he's actually at his summer cottage. So if you look behind him, he's got some curtains, but his yacht, I think, is in the background. Is that right? Is that what you said earlier?
No yacht, more like a canoe. We're
Okay.
2 hours from Toronto, north of Toronto, in an area called Muskoka. It's a lake country.
Okay.
So we're very comfortable and very happy. So
a lot of golf courses up
talking
there.
about the Renaissance Club, one of my great memories in golf was at the Renaissance Club I'm thinking about 12 years ago. I was invited there, and you saw the pictures of the 18th green. I was in the room right over the 18th green. They gave me that suite, and I played golf that day with one of the young pros there. We had a fantastic, gorgeous summer day, and we had the course to ourselves because it's a very exclusive course. And we were just there. We had the place to ourselves. It was incredible. One of my best memories of ever in golf.
Yeah, and that begs the question: how do you get into the golf travel business? That sounds like something someone would make up just to tell their wife they want to go play more golf. So, how did that get started with you?
Well, it's funny because there was a golf writer, an American fellow I met years ago, and I can't remember his name now. He's an older gentleman. Hopefully, he's still with us, but I'm not sure. And he said, "Don't tell." We were on a bus going somewhere in upstate New York, and he said, "Don't ever tell anybody about this gig. It's too good to share." And that's sort of like the joke amongst golf travel writers. And now, to be fair, it is print media has imploded. So there are many or far fewer opportunities than there used to be. So it's more a rarefied thing now. You know, the guys who really get the big invitations tend to be like the guys with the Golf Channel and stuff like that now. But I got started 22 or 3 years ago. I was writing books at the time for Penguin. I was a Penguin author. And they said, well, my books were selling. And they said, well, what's your next book? And I said, well, how about a guy, middle-aged guy, takes up golf again? I hadn't played for years, takes up golf again, and his adventures in Canadian golf. So I wrote my book for Penguin, my golf book, which was called Northern Links. If you mentioned it earlier. And then I just sort of said to my wife, I came back from a fam trip to Banff and Jasper in the heart of the Alberta Rockies. That is so fantastic, those two courses. That whole area is so gorgeous. And I said to my wife, you know, maybe we should stick with this and see where it takes us. And I was not an unknown writer, so very quickly I was sort of doing all the golf travel for the Globe and Mail, which is Canada's version of the New York Times. It's like the Canada's national newspaper. And that got me invited everywhere in the world. So it worked out quite well. And I wrote for other publications as well. So I'm very lucky. A lot of it's good luck and timing and things like that, as you guys well know.
Yeah, I was just thinking, well, I guess we ought to write a book and start working for the New York Times, because that sounds like
Yeah,
a really
well,
good way.
a lot of it's just good timing and, like I
Yeah.
say, good luck.
How would
So
you
you already,
describe golf in Canada to those maybe that have never been? I mean,
It's a avid golfing nation. Per capita, more Canadians play golf than any other nation in the world. The great golf right across Canada. Well, as you guys no doubt know about Cabot Links and Cabot Cliffs out in Cape Breton Island in Nova Scotia. Courses that, well, Cabot Cliffs has been ranked as high as 9th best course in the world. And that's led to the whole creation of the Cabot chain, which is now, you know, they bought Cabot Stewart Links in Scotland, and they're just expanding everywhere. So there's that on the East Coast. There's much more on the East Coast, of course. And then I always tell everybody who's never golfed in Canada, you know, it's such an easy trip to get to Calgary. That's, you know, doable from almost anywhere. And then you're on the edge of the prairie in Calgary. But then 40-minute drive out of Calgary, you're into the foothills of the Canadian Rockies. And about 55 minutes out from Calgary, you're in full-blown Canadian Rockies. And then you go into the national park, Banff National Park, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's a protected national park land. And there in this beautiful, beautiful town of Banff is one of the great courses of the world, the Banff Springs Golf Course. Stanley Thompson, an iconic figure in Canadian golf, one of the greatest golf course architects who ever lived, a product of the golden age of golf, you know, along with Donald Ross and Trent Jones. In fact, Trent Jones Sr. started as Stanley Thompson's assistant. So that course, and 3 hours away through the same park and up into Jasper National Park is Jasper Golf Course, which is another big resort, Jasper Park Lodge. And those two Stanley Thompson courses are just spectacularly good. And I believe that every serious and well-traveled golfer should make that pilgrimage at some point in their careers if it's at all possible.
well, that might actually be the answer to our next question, because we're going to ask, like, where are the must-visit locations? If you were, say, putting together a group, want to do a couple rounds of golf, would you say stay on the East Coast, or are those hidden treasures sort of found out there in the big middle of the mountains?
It's so hard to say. I guess it also depends about if you live on the East Coast, getting up to Nova Scotia is pretty easy. You
Yeah.
know, from New York, you could probably fly direct to Halifax and then you drive up to Cabot Cliffs and Cabot Links. There's also an airport not far in Inverness, in Sydney, Nova Scotia, which is closer to Cabot Links and Cabot Cliffs. So that's a great trip. And there's also Highlands Links, which is another classic Stanley Thompson course on Cape Breton Island. So you could do the two Cabot courses and then drive to Highlands Links, and that's a fantastic trip. And PEI, Prince Edward Island out there, also has a terrific golf lineup. I do love mountain golf, though. I have to say, when I'm in the heart of the Canadian Rockies playing golf at Banff or Jasper or several other courses, um, I'm as happy as I could possibly be. And I'm also, of course, I love links golf. I mean, when you're in Scotland or Ireland, it's just or the English Golf Coast where the Open is this week. It's also fantastic. But in Canada, that was your question. In Canada, I do love Rocky Mountain Golf, and I would say it's so easy to get to. Rent a car. You can even bus from the airport in Calgary to directly to downtown Banff. It's easy and it's gorgeous. So
Well,
I can't recommend that highly enough.
my wife keeps bugging me about going to Banff, so maybe Robbie, we'll have to talk our wives into our quote unquote Banff couple trip, but then also just go play golf. So
It's
Absolutely.
beautiful. It's a great shopping area, great restaurants. The town is a very sophisticated tourist town. You can't go wrong, really. It's just, and the Banff Springs Hotel is that famous castle in the mountains on top of the cliffs. You've seen
yes,
the photos. Really, really gorgeous, spectacular place to go to. And someone asked me just recently online when to go there. Well, it is high altitude, and you are in Canada, remember, and you're getting further north in Canada. So I would go personally, I would go from mid-June to the end of August if I were planning a trip. You could stretch it a bit on both ends, but that's when I would go.
so they're saying January is probably not a good time to go
Not a
try to
good,
find a
it's
white
still
golf course.
beautiful. I mean, that hotel packs them in year round.
Yeah,
People
just not for
go
golf,
for,
maybe.
go for the winter skiing and all of that, and it's gorgeous. But yeah, I mean, for golfers, you want to be there so you can play the course.
Well, you
It's
mentioned a few places outside of Canada. We were going to ask where are some of the best, in your opinion. You've traveled a ton. You mentioned some of the places in like the UK and stuff, but where are some of the if you were to say must go locations outside of Canada to play?
Well, you guys well know, and everybody knows that you got to go to Scotland if you can, afford it, and if you know you're a traveling person, and I mean, Scotland's fantastic. Uh, Teeing up at the old course is just an unbelievable experience. But as I've sort of been pointing out to people lately, through my website, CanadianGolfTraveler.com, and through my Twitter feed, you don't have to go and there are so many great courses and links courses too. You don't have to go and play these ultra famous ones that everybody's vying to get on and where the price has gone up quite a bit in the last few years. There are dozens of great courses that you could just almost walk on and you'd say, I've just died and gone to heaven. I mean, so people shouldn't always be thinking, I've got to go play my bucket list courses. Yes, that'd be great if you can do it, to play Carnoustie and St. Andrews and whatever else. But there are a lot of good golf courses over there that you just have you'd come back and say, what a trip I had just had. It's a good life. And also too, as you'll probably be reading a lot about this week, the area where the Liverpool, Hoylake, this week's Open, that whole stretch of oceanfront coastline called England, it's marketed as England's Golf Coast. It is unbelievably good. I mean, literally, you can almost walk from one links to the next, from Southampton at the Southport at the top, all the way down to Liverpool, which is I'm just guessing now 60 miles or so, and it's unbelievably good, including 3 Royals, including Royal Hoylake, Royal Liverpool, Lytham and St. Anne's, Royal Lytham and St. Anne's, and Royal Birkdale. I mean, these are like the 3 of the best courses in the world, and there are all these other great courses like Hillside and Wallesley. It's just unbelievable. I mean, and that's a spot where a lot of North Americans, they get fixated on Scotland and Ireland, which is understandable. But geez, this is just as good. And then, of course, there's Wales too, which is spectacular as well. So there's a lot of golf out there for people who have done Scotland and Ireland and want to pursue other things over there. It's all just it's unbelievably great golf.
whenever you're describing these places, I know this happens whenever Robby and I talk about different courses. Are you seeing these in your head? Are you reliving the moments of where
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
played?
You know, one of my favorite moments in golf was actually a day when, okay, I was in St. Andrews, staying in a beautiful little bed and breakfast, as happy as a lark. I went into the pool to play St. Andrews, but my number didn't come up. But I had played it before, so I'm luckily enough to have played it before. So I wasn't like really disappointed because I was playing a lot of great courses. But one night, my partner and I, a fellow from at the time he was with Golf Channel, and he was off having dinner with a friend, some friends, and he was my traveling partner that week, and it had rained all day. We had been driven off the course at Crail, which is another great course not far from St. Andrews. And but finally, I was having dinner on my own in a beautiful little fish restaurant in downtown St. Andrews. And then I went out. It's, you know, it stays late till about 10:30 in summertime there. And I went out and suddenly the sun shone. And it had been horrible all day. And I went down to the old course and there was nobody there. So I walked from the first tee of the old course deep into the old course. And I virtually had the place to myself. And the sun was shining after it had been a miserable, miserable day. And I just thought I died and gone to heaven. I was just so pleased to be there, even though I wasn't playing the course at that trip. I did play the Jubilee course that trip, which is fantastic, which is like right beside the old course and part of the Links Trust. But it was just, I didn't even pick up a club that day, but it was still one of my great memories in golf.
I had a pleasure of my family. We were over in the Scotland area and got to go to Carnoustie and go to St. Andrews. And like you're describing, didn't have a golf club with me. Did play the Himalayas with my son
Oh,
and
yeah, that's
a
fun.
Scottish pastor friend of ours, but and the whole family. But just the ability to walk, and I love the fact that they're what public trust. So it's kind of like a park. You can go walking around as long as you're watching out for golf balls and
Yeah,
just enjoy the beauty of these courses that you either read about, see on TV, hear about. It would have been awesome to play, but it was amazing just to be there. So
yeah.
hopefully get to go back and play them sometime. But I agree with you. Like there are so many places over there that are off. I don't want to say off the beaten path, but not the famous ones like you described, not the ones on the
Mhm.
bucket list that you could just have a great time. So Jonathan, again, on our list of places to go,
That's right.
Banff, Scotland, England, Ireland, Wales. We'll do them all. So yeah,
Well, it's a good goal. It's definitely something to strive for. I mean, it all depends on circumstance and time and what's going on with your families and stuff. But boy, it's a good goal to have as a golfer.
I
absolutely.
think Robbie's birthday's in September, and so is my wife. I bet I could convince her to go on a golf trip in September, and we would just have to like bring extra layers of clothes because I'm sure it's already going to be cold there.
Okay,
Yeah,
another tip. You know, as you probably saw online this week, Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas, good buddies, we're in the area, right? Like the Renaissance Club is on an area very close to Edinburgh, which is called marketed as Scotland's Golf Coast. And it is beautiful. And if you guys have not been, and to all your listeners who haven't been, Edinburgh is just one of the most beautiful cities. It's all Georgian architecture. It's only 500,000 people, but it seems so much grander and larger than that. And right next door to Edinburgh is this beautiful area where the Renaissance Club was, where Rory just won, and so many other incredible North Berwick, Dundonald Links, Gullen 1, 2, and 3, and so many other lesser known courses, but still spectacular courses that most people and more affordable courses. And you could even, and also too, as you know, you can take trains everywhere there. I hate
yeah.
driving over there. I don't like to drive. I get nervous. But you don't have to. You can take a train from downtown Edinburgh out to Berwick, say, and play it. Put your clubs back on the train, go home in half an hour, go back to your hotel in Edinburgh in half an hour. So if you are traveling with a wife, say, who isn't interested in golf and she happens not to be a golfer, Edinburgh, and then that area with North Berwick and all those other courses that I've mentioned, pretty spectacular.
I think
Great.
you just saved marriages all across the world. They're gonna be like, listen, hon,
Well,
you
I
can
mean, you
get on
can't go wrong.
trains. That's
There you
right.
go. It's like, honey, here, you don't want to golf today, but hey, look at you're in downtown Edinburgh. I'm going to go off in the train. I'll see you in time for dinner. I mean, it's a pretty good combination.
And I appreciate you bringing up sort of the lesser known, because Robbie and I talk about all the time. It's not necessarily about where you're playing or what you're doing, but who you're playing with. And so, if you get to go with a group of friends or even a group of strangers who quickly, I'm assuming, become friends after a couple of rounds, that a bad day on a golf course is still a pretty good day. And if you're in one of those just renowned areas, can't be a bad way to live.
Well, exactly. I mean, if you're in the vicinity of St. Andrews, I mean, you
Yeah.
can't go wrong. If you're in the vicinity of Edinburgh, it's so gorgeous. And we haven't really talked about Ireland yet, but Northern Ireland is hot. Royal Portrush held the Open, and it's a great area. That whole area of the Antrim coast is just beautiful. And then, of course, as you get down into the Republic, there's Lahinch and Ballybunion, Rosa Penna. I mean, it's just there are just so many and I know some people prefer Ireland. I know I had this sort of debate in an article asked which did I prefer, Scotland or Ireland, and the flip a coin. I kind of land on Scotland's side because it's the birthplace of golf, but Ireland is spectacular too. So many great courses there.
Well, you mentioned Royal Liverpool, the host of the Open this week. Give the listeners, like, what are they going to see when they're watching it on TV, or if people are privileged enough to go be there? Describe Royal Liverpool and what the golfer should expect this week.
Well, it's a very difficult links, as you can imagine. So, what I love, my best memory, and probably you guys may concur, is remember when Tiger slapped that course and he didn't even, what did he use? And I don't even know if he used a driver that week.
It was like a 2-iron or something the entire time.
Yeah.
Little stinger driver.
The stinger. He hit the stinger all week, and afterwards I was saying to somebody, why doesn't he just hit that club why didn't he just hit stingers constantly? He'd never lose everywhere. But anyways, it is a course, and another thing North Americans will find, and I'm not hardly the first one to comment, Brown is beautiful over there. Those links, you'll see a lot of brown grass, turf, and over there it's like, so what? So if it isn't green, it's beautiful. It's great. It's the summer turf. But it was funny to see at the Renaissance with Rory. Everybody's it's July in Scotland, and these guys have parkas on and earmuffs, and it's a different world over there for sure.
Absolutely. Well, it's going to be fun to watch. We'll ask you here in a little bit if you've got a prediction, but we got to jump back to Canada real quick. Being from Canada, Canadian Open, what was it like watching a Canadian win this year?
That was so great. It was so great. And the fact that Nick Taylor made that ridiculous putt, the longest putt he'd ever made as a professional, I believe he said.
Like 72 feet or something, yeah.
Like crazy.
Yeah.
What are the odds of that going in? Like 1 in 100,000? I don't know. I mean, he'd never made one that long before. So what were the odds? So that was just a thrilling moment for Canadian golf, for sure. It was great. It was long past due that a Canadian won it. Weir came close, as you might remember. It was a playoff with Singh, and Singh was virtually was apologetic that he beat him, because he knew how much it meant to Weir to win it. For Canadians, that's a 5th major for sure. George Knudsen, the great Canadian ball striker, it was his major. He came second at the Augusta at the Masters in 1969. But for George Knudsen, who, as you guys probably know, is like a legendary ball striker, even Hogan admired his swing. The Canadian Open was as important to him as any of them. So yeah, it was a big deal for Canadians that Nick Taylor won that. A huge thrill. It was so exciting. Yeah, it was great. And then when Ada Hadwin got tackled, which was crazy. I don't know what that security guard was thinking, but it was all great.
Yeah, just watching, like you were saying, for all the Canadian golfers that were there, Weir, Hadwin, and all the others that were there, like cheering him on, supporting, and then he gets tackled. But yeah, you can tell just for the country, for Canadian golf, Canadian professional golf, it was quite a moment. So it was fun to see Nick win it.
Well, isn't
Yeah.
it? I think it's 5 Canadians have won on tour this year.
Yeah, doing very
I mean,
well.
so we're not obviously Canadians aren't dominating. There's no superstar Canadian, but well, except for Brooke Henderson on the women's side, she's pretty big star. But obviously, yeah, I mean, Canadians love their golf. I mean, a lot of Americans, and not in counting you guys, of course, but a lot of Americans think as soon as you get to the border, there's nothing but nothing.
Yeah,
And
snow.
that's
Yeah,
not true. It's a
nope.
nation of 40 million. It's a G7 nation, a G7 economy,
That's right.
one of the great economies of the world, really. So it's like there's a big time country north of you guys and big time golf.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be a 73-foot putt, but we always try to ask, like, what is your, and you've played everywhere, it seems, what has been your best golf shot? If you could narrow it down to one shot in one place, what's your best ball that you've ever hit?
Well, I don't know. The fact that I was so nervous on the first tee of the old course when I played it, for the first time I played it, the fact that I hit it well and down and straight, that was my biggest thrill. Whether it was my best shot or not, but you're everyone who's never played that course before, as you guys, I don't believe have played it, but you can imagine how nervous you are because you don't want to shank your first shot on the old course. So the fact that my drive went straight and true on the old course, and I actually played pretty well that day. I was pleased with it. And so that was my biggest, I'll say that's my best shot. I
I
did
would
have
think,
a hole in one. I can't remember the number of the hole. I had a great hole in one, and my only hole in one was at the Nevis Four Seasons in the Caribbean. So that's a pretty nice place. I don't know, Nevis is very posh island, and I'd been invited down, and I had a hole in one at Nevis and at a Four Seasons. So they made a big deal out of it. So that was fun too.
I would think though, being able to strike that driver and pick up your tee like you've just done this all the time would be a pretty nice shot,
Yeah.
right? Because I
Yeah.
mean, even on a regular Saturday with another group behind you, you get a little nervous.
Yeah, you're at the old course, so you're nervous. Another
Yeah.
time I was pretty nervous. I was at Carnoustie, and they gave me a room immediately over the first hole. So I'd slept there that night, and the next morning, I think I was ready, not due to tee off till let's say 1 in the afternoon. So I'm watching these guys go off the first tee at Carnoustie, which is like the incredibly difficult golf course. So I'm getting more and more nervous. But then when I did get up to the first hole, the first tee, finally, I parred the first hole, which was very pleasing. And after that, I kind of chose to forget what I scored the rest of the day because it was so difficult and the conditions were crazy. But that's another great experience to tee off at number one at Carnoustie.
Yeah, parring the first hole and forgetting about the rest. You can't be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I did. That was my choice. I made that choice to just forget about the rest of it. Not forget the experience, but forget my score.
yeah. I played Pinehurst number 2 about a month ago and
Oh,
parred the
did
first
you?
hole. Parred the first hole and had fun enjoying the rest of the round. So
What a great. Well, you guys are from that region. You're South Carolina, I believe.
yeah,
But what great golf. I mean, my wife and I spent, not this past winter, but the winter before, we spent a month mid-January to mid-February at Talamore Resort just outside Pinehurst.
mm,
And they set me up to play Pinehurst. We played Pinehurst number 2, and we played number 4, Pinehurst number 4, and Tobacco Road. You
mm.
guys probably don't want to talk about Tobacco Road because it's so much in your backyard, but what a course.
Yeah.
That's
I'm a,
a
I'm a
special
big fan
place.
of Mike Strantz. We're going to be playing Caledonia and True Blue over in
Wow.
the Pawleys Island area. Another couple of Mike Strantz courses here in a couple of months. So we're excited about that. They're a couple of my favorite, but yeah, there's great golf everywhere. So
That's true.
that is true. Just got to find it, right?
Yeah, it's true. There is great golf almost everywhere.
Yeah, well, and again, going out with a friend of yours, I went and played probably one of the worst courses. I'm in Augusta, Georgia, and unfortunately, it doesn't carry from the Masters into the rest of the town. But Robbie and I played a course the other day with the son. Went out with played 9 holes with a buddy after work on a Monday, and you're out there striking a ball.
Yeah,
Not a bad way to live.
that's another thing about I'm not, I played a lot of the famous courses in the world. I've been very fortunate. I've been lucky enough through what I do for a living. But I'm also happy. I'm not really that fussy about the course I'm on, if you know what I mean. I'm just happy to
Yeah,
be out there.
that's right.
Um, it doesn't have to be a famous course. It doesn't even have to be anything much more than just a basic course. I'm out there in the sunshine with my carrying my clubs, and it's a good life. I mean, I don't have to play a famous course to be happy. I'm not a snob that way at all, and I don't think it pays to be a snob that way.
Well, if for our listeners, it's going to be familiar. I don't know if you've seen this before, but we do a thing called the Quick Nine. So we're just going to do some rapid fire questions, 9 quick ones here. You can elaborate however you want.
Oh,
Robin and I'll go
okay.
back and forth. So the first one, and again, I don't know if you can narrow this down. Do you have a favorite course that you've played?
Favorite course. Well, you know what? I'm going to stick with Canada that one, and I'll say the Banff Springs, which is a must play for every well-traveled golfer in the world, and the scenery is spectacular. So I'll stick with the Banff Springs.
All right.
Okay. Next question. Is there a golf destination or course that you have not played that's on the top of your bucket list?
I think I would. I'd like to golf in southern. I mean, this is pretty wishful thinking, but southern France and Italy. I think that'd be pretty cool. And play golf and then have a beautiful dinner. I think that'd be great. I mean, not that it has to be a big expensive restaurant, but just a beautiful dinner afterwards, some pasta or something. I think that'd be a pretty nice experience to be traveling along, say, the Mediterranean coast from France into Italy, playing in Nice and Cannes and then on into Italy. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I was looking at golf courses on the way here, thinking, man, if I could convince my family to go away for half a day, that'd be fun. So I don't know. Tomorrow's going to be beach day. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get away, but yeah, I'm going to mark that down our next
Well,
European trip.
I'm not feeling sorry for you. It sounds like you're having a great trip.
No, there's nothing to feel sorry about at all. My son and I are going to go drive at Monte Carlo tomorrow,
Oh,
so that we can
wow.
go drive the F1 track. It's not an F1 car; we're in a rental, but we're going to go give it a whirl. So
That's so good. Well, Monte Carlo is so beautiful, and all those
yeah.
little villages all along the coast. It's just gorgeous.
Well, everyone who listens knows that I'm a fan of tacos. So we're going to ask what course has the best on-course food option. I don't know if Canada goes with a hot dog from a cart, or if there's something better up there.
I don't think I have an answer for that one. What's the course in Cabo that Nicholas built? I'm having a mental blank that goes up and down and all over. And there's like food stations everywhere. In fact, it kind of bugged me because they were always stopping to feed you. I wanted to play golf, and it was like, let's stop for a half an hour and have a taco. That was pretty. I can't remember that course. It's a
Well,
Nicholas course in Cabo. Anyway, I don't really have. I can't really honestly say. I don't know.
that's actually where my love of tacos started, because I'd rather eat tacos than play golf. So I was in Cabo earlier this year, and you're right, every couple holes you come to a little stand and you get a drink and you get some tacos. So it was a good time. Maybe you're a better golfer than I am. That's probably true.
Well, I don't.
Jonathan
I
likes the
doubt that.
breaks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
What's the favorite club in your bag?
My 3-wood. I love my 3-wood. I do hit my driver, but my 3-wood's pretty consistent. So that's all. It's a good club to have as an alternative when the driver's not working. So I do love my 3-wood.
If you could win one professional golf tournament, which one would it be?
Well, I won't say the Canadian, but because I have admittedly, honestly, I'd rather win the Open Championship. I think that's the pinnacle to me.
Do you care which course, or you'll take it
Well,
wherever?
I would, of course, if I'm really dreaming, it would be the old course,
Sure.
because that's like, I was thinking it's funny you should mention that, because today I was thinking, with all of Nicholas's accomplishments, it must please him that he did win at the old course. Because with his body of work, if he hadn't won at the old course, he'd probably be thinking, geez, I wish I'd won at the old course. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's, winning the Open anywhere, but especially at the old course.
What is the
I was
best
gonna.
trophy in golf?
Yeah.
Well, I would say to me, it's the Open Championship.
Do you being around golf for as long as you've been, do you have a favorite golf movie?
Well, I guess it would be a Caddyshack, I
Yeah.
suppose. I think Caddyshack. My wife and I just watched it again not a couple weeks ago, and it was. I love that when he's hitting the heads off of the flowers.
Yeah.
Cinderella. Yeah, I think he ad-libbed all of that. Bill Murray. Cinderella story. Cinderella
Yep.
story. I love that scene. And I actually the last time I played golf just here around near my cottage, I was doing that as I was setting over the ball just to my own sort of Cinderella story, Cinderella story. So I love that scene.
Loosens you up a little bit.
It does. It's a good relaxer as you get there.
Um,
Oh, I know what I was going to tell you guys. If you don't mind, can I
Yeah.
interrupt for 1 minute?
yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
I'm going to be traveling another week to a place called a resort, a very posh resort called Fox Harbor in Nova Scotia, the same province that the Cabot Links and Cabot Cliffs are in. And it was started by Ron Joyce, who started the famous Tim Hortons chain, donut
Yeah.
chain in Canada. He's passed on now, but it's still in the family, and they're doing a major reworking of their course with two top Canadian architects who are collaborating, Tom McBroom and Doug Carrick. So that'll be interesting. I'm going out there in a week and a half. They're flying me out with a few other writers on the private family jet, so that'll be cool. So anyway, you
Well,
carry on with your question. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, are the
no, no.
courses under construction now? I mean, will you get a chance to
It,
play,
no,
or you just look at
it
them?
exists, but it's being redone by two. You could arguably say they're the top two Canadian golf architects, Doug Carrick and Tom McBroom. And
Very
it's
nice.
being redone, and it's the type of place where rich people from around the world fly in on their private jets and stay for a few days and play golf and all that stuff.
Yeah, we'll look forward to your recap on your website and on your social media.
Great, thanks.
That actually might lead into our next question. I don't know if we're going to ask you to describe your perfect day at golf. I didn't know if it started in your private jet or if it was something else.
Well, I've never flown. I've flown on prop planes before, of course, but not a private jet. So this is a first for me. Perfect day at golf. You know, years ago, I was invited over by the Scottish tourism people, and I'm coming back to St. Andrews because they had a champagne reception for us on this perfect summer evening at the Old Course Hotel overlooking the Old Course, as you know. And we're drinking Veuve Clicquot on the outdoor patio, 3 floors up, and it's just pouring. They're serving it up and hors d'oeuvre, and we're looking down over it. And the next day, I'm playing the Old Course. So that's like my perfect Veuve Clicquot evening at the Old Course Hotel, and then tee off at the Old Course the next day. How do you beat that?
How do you beat that?
How do you beat that? All right.
You
Well,
can't.
final question. We want to get your opinion, your expert opinion. Who do you think wins the Open this week?
Well, I would love to see Rory win it. I have to say, I'm a Rory guy. I met him when he was 21
Wow.
at in Northern Ireland. I met him and his family. Really nice, salt of the earth mom and dad. You know, working class family who did everything for Rory to succeed in golf. Just a nice family. And Rory, he seems like such a great guy. And it must be in his head now, the major thing, right? Because he's such a great golfer. But now it's deep in his psyche that, oh man, I haven't won. I have trouble at the majors now. I would love to see him get over the hurdle. And I think it'd be good for golf if Rory starts winning majors again. I think it'd be fantastic for golf.
Well, that ends our quick nine. Brian, we really appreciate you being here. This has been a lot of fun. You know, if you don't follow him already, follow Brian on Twitter. His Twitter handle is, I'll read it, at Canadian Golf Traveler, CDNGOLFTRAVELER. Follow him there. He posts incredible stuff. He links up to his website, which is CanadianGolfTraveler.com. We will have these things in our show notes so that you can find those easily. But Brian, it's been a pleasure having you on. But before we jump off, Jonathan, I got to ask, who's your prediction for the Open this week?
So I'm going to go with a dark horse, maybe. I've done a little bit of research. Corey Connors. I don't know what he's betting at. We don't bet, but if we did, I think I could win some money.
You went for a
Corey
Canadian.
Connor's a Canadian. That's very he's a beautiful ball striker, but his putting, it can be questionable.
He always
Well, we're
shows up
gonna
at the Masters. He does a good job there.
Oh, he loves the Masters, doesn't he? He loves that course.
we're gonna hope is that he comes in well off the drive. So
Well, I
yeah,
like your prediction. That's a good one.
Yep.
yeah, and I
Wow.
promise that was not a plug of any kind. I didn't know.
You
I didn't
weren't
do enough
pandering to
research.
your guest.
I didn't do enough research to know he was Canadian. I was just looking through some of the guys that be playing and
Yeah,
see who I pick.
well, it could happen.
Absolutely. He has a better shot than we do, right? Because he's playing in it.
That's right.
Yeah, I posted this right after he won the Rocket Mortgage a few weeks ago. Ricky Fowler. I'm going to go with Ricky winning the Open, getting his first major. I mean, it would be fun. It'd be just a great way. He's had a great year, great season. So to get his first major at the Open, which he's played well, so it could happen.
And he's feeling his oats. He's
Absolutely.
feeling it. So yeah, he's feeling it.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, again, we appreciate you being here. We hope everybody has fun watching the Open Championship as everybody there tries to win the Claret Jug. It's one of the best trophies in golf. But Brian, we really appreciate you joining us. Jonathan, appreciate you being up in the middle of the night as you travel in France. I appreciate y'all listening to the Whole Story podcast.